and prevent domestic default, and enabled government to meet domestic debt obligations and other critical payments needed to avoid a disorderly halt to economic activity. Throughout the first half of 2022, there was no new foreign financing until July, when the Afri-Exim Bank stepped in to support with $750 million. This is a typical replay of what is referred to in the literature as a first-generation macroeconomic and balance of payments crisis. You would recall that many people doubted if the economy was in crisis because they did not hear that interest rates on bonds were not being paid in early 2022. They did not see queues at the pump for petrol and diesel. There were no shortages of international essential items on the market, and they did not hear that public sector workers, including civil servants, the police and the military, were not being paid their salaries. The reason was that the Bank of Ghana had provided the needed support to keep the economy going. These are the circumstances that led government to approach the IMF for support in July 2022. The IMF immediately sent in a mission to assess the economic situation. The mission concluded that the economy was at a tipping point, and it was agreed with the understanding of the IMF that the Bank of Ghana should continue to provide the necessary support to keep the economy running until a reform program had been put in place, which will trigger IMF financing. The portrait painted above of the Ghanaian economy in 2022 was similar to what pertained in many other frontier and emerging market economies. Key among countries with similar experiences were Egypt, Argentina, Turkey, Kenya, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, just to mention a few. What separated these countries and their ability to hold their economies until a package of reforms were introduced was the availability of policy buffers and resilience of key policy institutions. We all know what happened in Sri Lanka. The Bank of Ghana was able to step in with the support to the economy until the IMF program was concluded because of policy buffers built following years of prudent management. This is a reflection of the resilience of the bank for being able to rise up to the occasion to play its statutory role as lender of last resort. Economic history also teaches us that crises are part of the business cycle, and the accumulation of policy buffers is the only way to guarantee space to deal with such crises. And this is clearly the role that the bank played with distinction. Now, let me shift my remarks to the corrective measures that were put into place in 2022 to manage the crisis. In particular, the major policy effort designed to put Ghana's debt on a sustainable path. These corrective actions included the Domestic Debt Exchange Program, where the stock of Government of Ghana public sector debt was to be halved from 105% of GDP to 55% of GDP by 2028. The holders of government debt had their instruments exchanged for new ones with lower coupon payments and longer tenors. Despite the resulting losses incurred by households, banks, and other financial institutions, the threshold of 55% of GDP was not met. As part of the solution, the Minister of Finance wrote to the bank with a proposed treatment of a 50% haircut on Bank of Ghana's holdings of government's non-marketable debt. Naturally, the bank was concerned and fully aware of the implications of such a treatment on the books of the bank. We held several discussions with the Ministry of Finance, the government advisors on the debt exchange, that is Lazard, and the IMF on this treatment. At the request of the bank, the IMF sent a technical mission of central bank balance sheet experts to assist the Bank of Ghana to assess how the debt treatment would impact the bank's financial position and its ability to carry out its statutory mandate. The conclusion of that technical assistance mission was that the Bank of Ghana should be able to function effectively, that is, remain policy solvent, even after the imposition of such a haircut. The IMF placed a high premium on this particular debt scenario involving that Bank of Ghana, as that was the only scenario that was going to allow the government to meet the debt threshold that would allow Ghana's IMF program to proceed for board approval. The Bank of Ghana accepted this proposal on that basis, given how crucial it was to secure the fund-supported program and the benefits that would inure to the economy, as it would help to reset the economy and prevent a total collapse with much broader socio-economic implications. A Bank of Ghana board meeting was therefore arranged to get the board pass a resolution to this effect. The bank acted in good faith for the broader interest of Ghana's economy. The debt included all the legacy debts of Government of Ghana dating back to 1992, including the overdraft to 2022, overdraft to Cocoa Board, the COVID-19 bond, and even Bank of Ghana holdings of Telecom Malaysia bonds and the Tema Oil Refinery bonds issued by government. As of 2015, the accumulated claims on government and Cocoa Board were about 13 billion Ghana cedis. The debt, therefore, is not about recent debt alone. Almost all lending from the IMF, including the external credit facility and rapid credit facility during the COVID-19 pandemic, and financial sector resolution bonds, have been presented in the recent discourse as Bank of Ghana lending to government. This is not factual. It is important to state that losses reported were technical losses arising from the haircut and the application of accounting standards, in particular IFRS 9, to estimate expected credit losses over the tenor of the government debt held by Bank of Ghana. It is not money lost by the Bank of Ghana through its operations in 2022. Rather, one should look at this as a reflection of the total cost of the economic and social crisis that the country has faced over the years, and an attempt to resolve a major structural problem of the Ghanaian economy. I must also add that if one takes time to go through the historical financial statements of the Bank of Ghana, you will realize that this is not the first time that the bank has gone into negative equity. During the early years of the structural adjustment, very large exchange rate depreciations led to revaluation losses that drove the bank into negative equity. Indeed, any time the economy faces major challenges, the Bank of Ghana's balance sheet suffers, and the equity position moves into negative territories. You will recall that in 2017 and 2018, the bank incurred similar negative equity from the impairment of legacy liquidity support loans granted in 2015 and 2016 to insolvent banks, which the external auditors impaired due to the doubtful prospects of recovering from those insolvent banks. The bank, however, recovered and generated profits throughout the period 2019 to 2021. It is worth noting that central banks are not commercial banks. Bank of Ghana's current financial condition would not negatively impact on the operations of the bank. The IMF Technical Assistance Mission validated this conclusion before the necessary decisions were taken. In their opinion, the Bank of Ghana was policy solvent and will remain so, as it